Chapter 14. This is Master Zhang. Everyone present was dumbstruck, and Zhou Zhenghao was even more confused, not daring to believe it. What happened? Those gangster wouldn't dare to believe to provoke Viper, but now he called himself where and called this little public relations employees a master. Zhang Tuan picked up the watermelon and chewed it slowly. After swallowing it, he asked indifferently, "Where are these yours?" The Viper in front of him was the guard of Elder Tang, but no matter what, he shouldn't have any connection with Zhou Zhenghao. At this time, Zhou Zhenghao still had not reacted. He went over and asked the Viper, "You did not recognize the wrong person, right? He is a small public relations officer in the Zhao family's medicine. Why do you call him Master Zhang?" "Zhou Zhenghao, if you don't speak, no one will think you are a mute. Shut up." Zhou Zhenghao was so angry that as if his nose was crooked, his sharp eyebrows twitched, and he smacked Viper in his face. Professional soldier, how strong were his hands? With the crisp smack, Zhou Zhenghao was hit to fall to the side. He staggered backwards and almost fell to the ground. A golden light appeared in front of his eyes. His face was burning with pain, and blood was flowing down in the corner of his nose. However, for Zhou Zhenghao to be in his current position, his IQ must not be low. He thought to himself that he must have met a tough opponent today as he covered his face and did not say a word. "Are you angry?" and did not convinced. Viper pointed at Zhou Zhenghao's nose and cursed, "Master Zhang is Gramps' guest friend and benefactor. How dare you to provoke him? Are you tired of living? If I give Secretary Tang a call, you will have to get out of Linzhou tomorrow." Zhou Zhenghao's entire body shivered. He broke out in a cold sweat and said in disbelief, "He is a friend of Elder Tang. This is too unbelievable." In his memories, the only people who knew the Gramp were either the old leadership, the old general who was carrying a general star in his shoulder, or those old martial artists who were the prime of their lives. However, this young man looked to be in his 20s. How is this possible? You don't believe me. Do you want me to invite Elder Tang out and introduce him to you? The Viper's cold and harsh voice suddenly rang out. "I don't dare. How would I dare? Viper, what happened today was just a misunderstanding." Zhou Zhenghao was extremely confused in his heart, but he still looked at Zhang Tian and said pitifully, "Zhang, Master Zhang, please forgive my rudeness and let me go." "Let you go? How am I qualified? Didn't you just say that I can't be compared with you when it comes to relationship and background?" Zhang Tian smiled lightly, picked up a grape, carefully peeled off its skin, and put in his mouth. "Pow!" Zhou Zhenghao slapped himself in his face and pleaded in the sobbing tone of voice, "Master Zhang, I was the one who was blind and couldn't recognize Mount Tai. Just forgive me this time, and little Hao will never dare to do it again." Everyone present was dumbfounded. Zhou Zhenghao was such a strong character who could call the wind and rain in the West District, or even an entire Linzhou with his variability. But now, he had actually slapped himself in front of Zhang Tian, admitted his wrong, and gave in. This was too ridiculous. Everyone was confused. Who exactly was this Viper? The one dared to slap Houch, and what kind of person was Gramps? "This is not a matter of whether or not you offend me, Zhou Zhenghao. I have heard your great name for so long. Seeing you today, you are truly worthy of your title. To be overbearing and to turn white into dark. Are these your usual ways of doing things? Others saying that you are a powerful expert in the mogul. In my opinion, you are just scam in this society. Your actions are simply discrediting the Tang family and the Gramps." Zhang Tuan sneered. "Do you want me to tell Elder Tang that what kind of style you really have?" The sister Dong Dong, who knew the ins and out of what happened, cried out, "It's over. Could it be that today is the day Zhou Zhenghao will be annihilated?" Zhou Zhenghao was extremely anxious. He suddenly ran in front of Zhao Qianru and kneeled down on the ground.
"What are you doing?" Zhao Qianru was so scared that she took a step back.
Zhou Zhenghao was so anxious that his tears was almost coming down. He begged, "Young miss, you must be the girlfriend of Master Zhang. Please help me. It's my fault."
"You are mistaken. I am not his girlfriend." Zhao Qianru blushed.
"After all, you can speak your mind. Aunt, please spare my life. Zhou Zhenghao slapped himself again, showing his ugly expression and begging for mercy.
The girl was soft-hearted after all. Zhao Qianrou pulled Zhang Tian and whispered, "Brother-in-law, forget it, he's quite pitiful." At this moment, she felt like she was in a dream. This extremely resourceful community mogul had just forced her to blow his horn, but he was as frightened as a 3-year-old child scared by Zhang Tian. No, he was more like a mangy dog. She believed that if she stretched out her toes, he would not hesitate to lick them. What kind of Master Zhang is he now? Zhao Qianrou looked at Zhang Tian's tall and long back, and the current he had an indescribable feeling. Yes, it was an aura, the aura of a superior. At this moment, he was like a towering mountain, carefully placing her under his wings to protect. The feeling of being protected was really good.
Zhang Tian had experienced countless of slaughter and strife in the outer realms and had gotten used to the dark and sinister nature of humans. He won't get angry for this. He just wanted Zhou Zhenghao to submit and did not dare to retaliate against him. With his goal achieved, Zhang Tian did not want to say other words and drag Zhao Qianrou out of the box. As for the fatty Cheng, he didn't even spare him a glance. "I'll deal with you later." The security guard Wei glared at Zhou Zhenghao and quickly followed behind. "All of you, get out." Zhou Zhenghao waved his hands, and the group of men got out of the box. After everyone left, Zhou Zhenghao then slumped down the sofa like a pile of mud and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. "Oh my god, he scared me so much. This is too scary." He solemnly looked at Fatty Cheng and angrily said, "Remember in the future when you see Master Zhang, make a detour to avoid him. Also pay him back the 10 million that you owe him. Don't bring me any trouble." DMN, Hounge, who is that person? Look at how scared you are. Is it necessary? Must I pay back? 10 million is not small amount. The fatty Cheng shouted in confusion. Zhou Zhenghao future nearly ruined today, and he even had the heart to commit suicide. Hearing this, he suddenly mustered some strength and jumped, like a lion pouncing towards his prey, fiercely kicking Fatty Cheng right in the middle of his waist. Fatty Cheng cried out and was kicked to the ground. In such a critical juncture, it seemed that Zhou Zhenghao had miraculously recovered the skill he used to use when he was hoodlum. Fatty Cheng was covering his eyes and groaning as he crawled up and scolded, "Hounge, have you lost your mind? Why did you kick me?" Zhou Zhenghao complained about the society. He even had the heart to cry on the ground. After hearing that, he was worried that he could not find a place to vent his anger. He threw himself at him and kicked him in the face. "You the one who lost your mind. I think you're my F-skin bang." Chapter 15. The best brother-in-law in the world. Zhou Zhenghao kicked him again and again since he didn't vent his hate. Even he kicked him down on the ground, until Fatty Cheng cried for his mother to forgive him, and then kick him a few more. Beating someone up was also a manual labor. Zhou Zhenghao wiped the sweat of his forehead and gasped for breath as he cursed. "Do you know who the F-sking Elder Tang is? Linz's Tang family's family head, Secretary Tang's father. You dare to offend the famous person in front of Elder Tang? Laozi has been implicated by you." Upon hearing the words, Linz's Tang family, Sister Dong Dong was so shocked that her face turned pale. The Tang family, the #1 clan in the Linzhu for the past 100 years, they had many heirs and had shown their light in the political and military world. If they want to beat Zhou Zhenghao, it would be as easy as squashing a bug. "Friend of Elder Tang, can I offend him? Remember to return the money to him. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning hostile and killing you." Zhou Zhenghao sat on the sofa as he gasped for breath. "I'll pay him back. I'll definitely pay him back." Fatty Cheng was badly injured and he was almost scared to the death by Zhou Zhenghao. He went away scaredly. The inside of the box was completely silent. Zhou Zhenghao sat on the chair, frowning with worry all over his face, without any words. "No way." Zhou Zhenghao suddenly said, "These matter cannot end like this. If Viper and that Master Zhang were to twist their mouths in front of Gramps, I will suffer. And even Long will suffer as well. Unfortunately, how could we convince them? This is Linz's Tang family." Sister Dong Dong pondered for a moment, then laughed. How'd I think the key is still that Master John? It's just that we have to see his true personality and give him what is he interested. Dong dong, you really are my female Juge. Zhou Zhenghao eyes immediately lit up as he praised. You are right, he's young after all. As long as I lower myself and pestered him to the bone, he'll definitely forgive me. I'll leave this matter to you, investigate him thoroughly for me. Yeah, since this Master John is a popular person in front of Gramps, if he could hug this Master John thighs, he would definitely soar in the sky, Sister Dong Dong laughed conquetishly. On the other side, Viper accompanied Zhang Tian to the car park. Zhou Zhenghao is the younger brother of the Tang S clan third son Tang Wanian. Both of them are unskilled trash, but for the older Tang's face. Sure. Zhang Tian did not take it to heart, as he was not willing to lower himself to the same level of existence as these ants. Elder Tang wishes to invite you to our house for a few days. When do you the time? As you wish. When I have time, I will definitely pay a visit. Zhang Tian knew that the Tang family was powerful, but in front of Cultivator, they were nothing. He only wanted to protect his lovers and friends right now, cherishing every second of the time they spent together. Master John, can you give me a way to contact you? Viper revealed a wry smile. As expected of the master, he truly high profile. If an average person were to receive the Tang clan's invitation, wouldn't that make them extremely happy? I don't have a phone, how about this? I'll leave my office number. Zhang Tian spat out the number for him to remember. Master John, shall I send you home? Viper said with a smile. There's no need to trouble you. Qianro has driven a car and she's drank. I'll take her back. Zhang Tian smiled lightly and tactfully rejected.
After Viper left, Zhao Qianro reached out and hugged Zhang Tian, cried out, "Brother-in-law, you scared me to death just now." Without any outsider present, the fright and grievances from before could finally be released. The little girl lay in Zhang Tian's embrace and started to cry. The girl had a slim figure and was wearing thin clothes.
Zhang Tian could feel the softness and warmth in the front of his chest and could also smell the alluring body scent. Seeing that her long eyelashes were filled with sparkling tears and her charming and small face pitiful, Zhang Tian couldn't that a trace of gentleness appeared in his heart. He gently helped her wipe away her tears and said with a smile, "Silly girl, with brother-in-law here, how could you possibly harmed? Otherwise, how can I face to your sister?" The little girl turned tears into smiles and pulled Zhang Tian big hands. She was no longer willing to let him go, and completely forgot that a few hours ago, she still treated Zhang Tian as useless. "Stop, you bootlicking. I'll send you home." Zhang Tian rubbed the top of her head, turned around and pulled Zhao Qianro's red Volvo's door open, then sat in the driver's seat.
Scratching my head, brother-in-law is so warm. Zhao Qianrose was intoxicated by what she saw. Her beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape.
In the parking lot, in the Mercedes. Looking at Zhang Tian and Zhao Qianro's intimate, Zhang Qiushui, who did not know the relationship between the two, became even more unsightly. How did he come out alive? Hu Feng was shocked, he couldn't believe it. I think Zhao Qianro's father has appeared. Zhang Qiushui was also very surprised, and finally thought of reason to explain. Even if Zhang Tian is good at fighting, Haoj has a lot of power. If he called the police over, wouldn't Zhang Tian be forced to surrender? And only if Xiao Hecheng personally pleaded with Haoj, would Haoj able to let Zhang Tian and Zhao Qianro go. But just now, second miss. Hu Feng wanted to say something, but stopped in his tracks. He looked at Zhang Qiushui sympathetically. Zhao Qianro and Zhang Tian hugged and held hands. Other people's eyes could tell those intimate at a glance, that she had fallen for Zhang Tian. He suddenly felt that the lush green on top of Zhang Qiushui's head was about to turn into a prairie. I won't let him go. He is good at fighting, but so what? I have my own method to deal with him. Zhang Qiushui snorted coldly, his eyes exploded with the cold light.
Brother-in-law, how did you suddenly become so powerful? Just now you really too mighty. You were even stronger than Li Lianji. In the car, Zhao Qianro was blushing with excitement as she chatted non-stop. She was still immersed in the shocking scene from a moment ago and was unable to extricate herself from it.
One day, I went to a craggy cliff for a stroll. I accidentally fell off the cliff and picked up a ring to take a look. There lived a white-bearded old man inside. When Jang Tian thought of the online novel he had read in his previous life, he immediately reminded of a classic novel.
Brother-in-law, you're so bad. Just kidding me, a little baby. Zhao Qianru pouted her charming red lips and pouted. She knew that something must have been happened to Zhang Tian, but since her brother-in-law didn't say anything, there was naturally a reason that he didn't say anything, so she didn't ask.
Suddenly, Zhang Tian said, "Alright, don't tell your parents and sister about this, so they won't worry." Zhao Hucheng was just a low-ranking official. His family and asset could not even be compared with the Houch. If he hear about this, he probably scared out of his wits. As for Zhao Zuqing, she had always been annoyed with him for acting wildly. Even when he had returned from cultivation, fighting was very barbaric act in her eyes.
Yes, I know. Zhao Qianru nodded her head like a chick pecking rice. She suddenly had a little secret with her brother-in-law, which felt really great.
Chapter 16. Improvement of Prescription. After sending Zhao Qianru home, Zhang Tian did not follow her up the stairs, calling a taxi and returned to home. In the study room there were still lights on. Zhao Zuqing was still working overtime, flipping through a thick book on Chinese medicine. Zhao Zuqing, originally a financial major, and in terms of management ability she had a high chance of running the entire Zhao pharmaceutical industry. After all, in that case, the medical king group of Zhang family would hardly help the daughter-in-law, wouldn't it? But when he realized that the Zhang family was not as strong as it was, Zhao Hucheng gave up the idea. The enemies of Zhang family was so strong. He may be unable to steal a chicken, but even lose rice. They might make a move on the Zhao pharmaceutical industry. So he handed over all the businesses to his wife, Wei Fang. Wei Fang was afraid that Zhao Zuqing would reveal his management skills and then take control of the Zhao pharmaceutical industry, making her the master research and development department. However, Zhao Zuqing did not know how to make medicine, so she could only read books every day to make up for it. At this time, Zhao Zuqing was sitting in front of a desk, reading a thick stacks of documents and was thinking hardly with frowning due to a prescription. The prescription name was Muscle Nourishing Ointment, which was bought by the Research and Development Department with a huge sum of money from a generation of barefoot doctors. It was said that it had miraculous effect in treating external injuries, ulcer, and pus. However, after some research, it was found that although this paste has a certain therapeutic effect, it also have very obvious side effect. Because the reaction that the paste would cause the patient to have a headache and feel dizzy, the clinical trial hadn't been passed by the Drug Administration.
Zhang Tian must have returned. Suddenly, she heard the sound of the door opening and was startled. Her body stiffened. At the night of their wedding, the drunk Zhang Tian had beaten her up. From that moment on, Zhao Zuqing realized that their marriage was a complete tragedy. After that, she insisted on sleeping separately to Zhang Tian. Although Zhang Tian had coveted her beauty and wanted to obtain her body many times, Zhao Zuqing guarded herself strictly and resisted with all her might. Thus Zhang Tian had not succeeded now. Zhao Zuqing really wanted to go out and ask him about what had happened tonight, but she didn't get up as she was afraid that Zhang Tian would do something on her.
Outside, the sounds of light footsteps could be heard, followed by the sound of opening the door of the public bathroom and then the bathing. A moment later, with a bang, the door of the secondary bedroom closed. The sound of closing the door was not loud, but to Zhao Zuqing, it was like a clap of thunder that rang beside her ears, causing her delicate body to tremble slightly.
This kind of widowhood marriage, when would it be the end? Could it be that I really have to divorce? After a long while, Zhao Zuqing finally calmed down, but a deep grief assaulted her heart and her eyes reddened. When she was young, she had more than once fantasized about a boyfriend who was like a prince on a white horse, came to her rose to help her put on the diamond ring, and said that he would always love and cherish her. However, when she woke up with her dream, she realized that there was only one idiot who only knew how to bully her. Her life must truly miserable. If I let him when he was still very normal after getting married, then there's no harm in leaving him. But now that he is mentally ill, how can I be at ease after ruthlessly abandoning him? How can I face to his parents? The information in front of her eyes could no longer be read. Zhao Zuking's eyes flickered with tears as her vision blurred and droplets of tear began to fall in the desk.
Zhang Tuan cultivated all night. The Tianyuan fruit contained pure and dense spiritual qi of heaven and earth, and it was extremely abundant, far more so than the ghost that occupied Elder Tang's body could compare. In the morning, when he opened his eyes, the Tianyuan fruit's qi had completely refined the true essence in his body. Breakthrough to the second layer of body tempering, and open the heavenly Iopiner. The technique created by the ancestor crocodile is truly heaven-defying. Zhang Tuan let out a light sigh of satisfaction as a substantial, white light shot out of his eyes, reaching a length of more than a meter long. At this moment, the black shell of the wall-mounted television in front of his eyes disappeared in a flash, and the circuit boards and other components were clearly visible. As he looked ahead, the entire television disappeared from his sight. His gaze penetrated the wall and entered the bathroom in the next room. The scene before Zhang Tuan's eyes caused his heart fiercely jump. Under the curtain of water, a graceful, delicate body appeared. It had a protruding front and back, exquisite curve, and it was snow white. That plump chest and slender waist had an extremely strong visual impact. With living together every day, no matter how hard Zhao Zuking tried to guard against him, he had still seen her like this a few times. However, it was still the first time Zhang Tuan saw it so clearly, which made his heart speed up fitfully and the blood rushed to his head. So it turned out that his wife was actually beautiful. Zhang Tuan smiled. With a flash of white light disappeared, he retracted his gaze.
After Zhang Tian finished washing his face and dressed up, Zhao Zuking came out of her bedroom and asked softly, "Yesterday, when you went to see Fatty Chen, did something happen?"
"I'm fine. I just follow your instruction, ate more food and drunk less." Zhang Tuan immediately smiled to Zhao Zuking. This smile was a little silly, almost as if he was trying to curry favor with him.
"Take a break, I'll go to cook some breakfast." Zhao Zuking thought, "He made breakfast yesterday morning and he didn't disturb me at night. Let me make a meal for him as a reward."
Smelling the smell of the smoke and fire coming from the kitchen, Zhang Tian sat on the sofa, feeling a large amount of tenderness in his heart. In these 5,000 years of cultivation, didn't he long for and miss this warm and peace scene? He suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. Looking at Zhao Zuking back as she busted herself in the kitchen, he couldn't help but fall into a daze. When he came back to his senses, Zhang Tian suddenly realized that there was a stack of documents on the sofa. The 10th experiment plan of muscle-nourishing ointment medical paste. The few large words appeared on the cover of the book. This is probably the research that Zuking was doing. Zhang Tian looked at it quickly and could not help to shake his head and smiled bitterly. This prescription was too unreasonable. There were two medical properties that clashed. It would definitely harm the patient's meridian points, causing him headache and dizziness. Zhang Tuan's master used to soar from earth, and also relied on earth's medicine to refine pills, which was the reason that why they had reached the pinnacle in medicine. Zhang Tuan was better than the forefather and was extremely good at refining and making medicine. He immediately thought an improvement plan. With just a brush, he changed 3 of the traditional Chinese medicines and the proportion also be changed. This way, not only would the new prescription have a clear effect without any side effects, it would also much cheaper.
"What are you doing? I've told you so many times that you aren't allowed to touch my documents. You don't listen." Suddenly, Zhao Zuking shouted. It turned out that she had already prepared food and was currently carrying dishes to the dining hall.
"Oh, it's nothing. I was just looking." Zhang Tuan was shocked. He put 2 documents aside and immediately got up to help with the dishes.
"You are not allowed to touch these documents in the future, or you will move out. I'll throw you out on the street, froze you to death," Zhao Zuking shouted fiercely. However, she had a gentle appearance. She just had graduated from university half a year ago, and her face still had a bit of childish look. She had some baby fat on it, so no matter how fierce she was, it couldn't scare people.
Dear wife, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time. I don't dare to do it again. John Tian raised his hand in a pitiful manner and begged. All those years ago, in the outer realm, John Tian was invincible, and it was easy as killing ants to suppress the strong person and never had his head down. But at this moment, even though John Tian was able to admit defeat in front of his beloved wife, he was extremely willing, and even happy. Chapter 17. He is a fighter.
Zhao Zuking was slightly startled. John Tian used to be the rock in the latrine. He was smelly and hard. How could he act like today, bowing his head and giving in? It looks like that the last time he went crazy. I fought back with all my might and even hit him a few times, which was scaring him. Zhao Zuking was a little pleased with herself as she quickly adopted to a new relationship between husband and wife. She flaunted, it's good that you know that you are wrong. The next time you cause troubles, I'll spank your butt.
He waited for the dishes to put in the table. This smell is something that I haven't tasted for a long time. John Tian was immediately started to eat in big gulps. He felt that it was 100 times more delicious than the miraculous pills he had when he was traveling across the universe.
Is it delicious? Zhao Zuking ate the shredded radish. She immediately frowned. It was too salty, which is able to kill a person instantly. She was determined to be a strong woman and was busy with work. She was not very good at life skills and did not have the interest to learn how to cook.
And it's delicious. It was too delicious. Dear wife is practically a 5-star chef. Zhang Tia choked with his eyes bulged, his neck stretched, and his mouth filled with oil.
What a fool. It's not tasty at all. Can't you taste that it is not tasty? Slow down. Seeing Zhang Tian being so silly, Zhao Zuking pouted her lips in displeasure. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so she took a tissue and helped him wipe his mouth.
His chin was brushed against her smooth finger lightly, and in an instant, Zhang Tian's eyes grew hot as the tear hung in the air for a long time. She was younger than him by 3 years, but she took care of him like a gentle big sister, like a loving mother. When the Chevy was about to reach the Zhao pharmaceutical industry, Zhang Tian said depressingly, Zuking, I will get off here. Don't let anyone see us. It's not good for your reputation.
Oh, okay. Zuking hesitated for 3 seconds, but still stopped and let Zhang Tian off. Quickly arriving at the laboratory, Zuking took out the experimental plan from her universe pouch and handed over to assistant Zhou Luan. Zhao Zhou, let's do the experiment according to this plan today. Hurry up and get the results. We can wait any longer.
Zhou Liwen nodded, flipped open to look at the inner page, and said in shock, Miss, why is the new prescription handwritten? It seemed to have been modified.
Zhao Zuking didn't see this page yesterday, and only read the theoretical analysis from the previous page. Now that she saw it, she frowned. Professor Li is always like this. Do the experiment after confirming with him.
How can I confirm? He went back to Yanjing to train. There's no way to get through, Zhou Liwen said helplessly. During this period of time, the Professor Li was in the terrible state because of the prescription. After leaving behind the 10th set of experimental plan, he went back to Yanjing to research on the next set of experiment plans. His conduct had always been natural and unrestrained. During his closed-door cultivation, he would always stay on the research room and would never receive calls from anyone.
Then there's no need to confirm. He probably changed it at the last minute. Let's follow this plan first, Zhou Zuking instructed, then left the laboratory.
Zhang Tian comes. It's all thanks to you yesterday. Otherwise we would have been at the disadvantage. On the other side, the moment Zhang Tian entered Public Relations Department's office, a loud and warm applause rang out. Even Ding Yayan had a whole new level of respect for Zhang Tian.
Zhang Tian, have you eaten breakfast? I bought an extra set. Wu Fangfei handed the hamburger over to Zhang Tian and a cup of fragrant coffee.
Thank you. I've eaten. Zhang Tian smiled faintly. It it could be seen that the attitude this girl towards him had greatly changed.
A trace of disappointment appeared in Wu Fangfei's eyes, but then she handed over a ticket and said tenderly, Jiangshin, tonight, in the International Exhibition Center, there will be an opera show. If you have time, let's go together. All the girls present looked at each other and thought, since ancient times, beauty loved heroes, and Wu Fangfei probably no exception. Sigh, Zhang Tian is too eye-catching. In just one day that he's been in the public relations department, he already won Wu Fangfei's heart.
How had he done it? As for the male employees, they were looking at Zhang Tian enviously, especially Shanla, who beat his own chest and stomped his feet. Sorry, I still have other things to do. I'm really sorry. Zhang Tian tactically refused. His entire mind was set on Zhao Zuqi. How could he have the mind to date Wu Fangfei? It was simply a waste of time. Wu Fangfei was startled. She thought that she was extremely charming and never expected Zhang Tian to reject her. Also, I hope you won't spread what happened last night. When Zhang Tian returned in this life, he only wanted to protect his wife and relatives. It was best to keep a low profile and do not cause any more trouble anymore.
Don't worry. We won't speak carelessly. The few girls who were in attendance last night all nodded their head.
The Wulong villa took up a huge amount of space, looking ancient and delicate. Tang Linglong was dressed in her training clothes and was practicing martial arts in the courtyard. Her body like a wandering dragon, which was tripping lightly like a startled swan. Her fist and tip were so strong that brought wind. As for the elder Tang, he was sitting under a tall pine tree with a purple clay teapot in his hand. Watching the girl cultivate, he would give some pointers from time to time. At this moment, Wu, who dressed military attire, walked in quickly and said in a low voice, Elder Tang, we have a rough understanding of Zhang Tian's identity. How is it? Elder Yan's face turned serious. Zhang Tian is a member of Jinling, a descendant of the Zhang family, but he is the son-in-law of the Zhao family's Zhao Haichen and works in the Zhao pharmaceutical industry. The Weir said in deep voice, last night he met a martial artist on Craggy Cliff. His body was able to fight against the long knife, and he had reached the stage of invulnerability. Last night, he then went out against Zhao Xinghao and defeated several opponents, great experts. Flesh solid against long knife. Elder Tang suddenly thought of the possibility. His face suddenly changed as he said in shock, do you think that he is a traditional martial artist who practiced the kung fu horizontally? Or, I think it's very likely that he's the ancient martial trainer. Weir swallowed his saliva and said difficulty. How did you know? He can draw ki into his body, the wind is howling, the white mist is circling around him, and he can even exhale a white light that is 10 feet long. When Weir recalled the scene that Zhang Tian meditating in Craggy Cliff, he could not help feeling fear and trepidation. In this lifetime, he had only seen this kind of scene in Hongxia Dragon Group No. 1 War God, Yu Zanshan, during the secret special training a few years ago. Ancient, so, he really is a fighter. Elder Tang exclaimed, a strange light flashing across his eyes, the light flickering. Although the Elder Tang held important position in the past and had a high reputation, he was in fact just a martial arts expert in the secular world. In the path of ancient martial arts, he was only at the early stage of cultivation, family from the level to reach the next stage.
Zhang Tian is the fighter. What is the fighter? After Tang Linglong finished performing a set of boxing, she sat down under the tree, picked up the teacup, and drank it all in one gulp.
In these world, there will always be strange men like flying dragons soaring into the sky. One is called master cultivators, and the other is called martial arts expert cultivators. The Elder Tang sighed, master of arts, when they use the method, they can turn the beings into an army, drives the spirit to guard the ghost, summon the wind and rain, and control a lightning. The ancient Zhang Zia, Chong, the true disciples of the mountain and Master Zheng from the Longhu Mountains all share the same principles. As for the fighters, they can fly over the walls, tread on water, remain invulnerable to weapons, and use their congealing ki into soldiers to wound people. Thanks for reading and watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for more incoming videos.